Hello and welcome to our Eduro Learning video series, Let's Get Connected. In this series, we will hear from 10 connected teachers from all around the world as they share their top tips for getting connected, ways to connect your classroom and your students, to advice for ways to bring parents on board with a connected classroom, and so much more. My name is Chrissy Hellier and I'll be your host throughout this series. Helping parents understand why it is that you're connecting your classroom and therefore connecting their children to the rest of the world can often seem a little bit overwhelming, but it doesn't need to be. Today our 10 awesome educators are sharing their tips and strategies and advice for how you can help parents understand why you're connecting your classroom and what it is that their children will learn by being in a connected classroom. The best piece of advice that I can give you is be confident. You know why it is that you're connecting your classroom. You know what it is that their children are going to get out of being in a connected classroom, what it is that they're going to be learning, and you have the resources. If you don't have the resources, then get in contact with us because we're more than happy to share some of those resources with you and help you to help your parents understand why it is that you're connecting your classroom or you're about to begin connecting your classroom. You know the purpose of doing it. You know what benefits it's going to be to the students in your classroom. And really all parents want to know is that you're helping their children stay safe and be respected and be responsible when they are connecting themselves to the world. So let's get on with today's episode and hear from those 10 awesome educators how they help parents understand their connected classroom. Enjoy the conversation.
Of course, inviting them into the loop in all different ways. I think one, that initial stage of, input as to why you're doing it, why you think it's important, and sharing that directly with them, and connecting, showing that you're a lifelong learner too. I think this idea that parents can see a teacher as someone who's trying new things and being just willing and open with what they're doing in their classroom, that transparency layer is so huge. And so if you can kind of capture that early on, that's a big one. And then there's the follow-up work like newsletters or sort of like a report on the outcomes and how did things go. And as parents get used to this kind of thing happening in one or two pockets in your school, then that kind of thing can just become the norm. So just kind of buying them in or getting people to buy in early by inviting them in is my biggest tip. So my little bit that I do is every year we have open house. And so at the open house, the parents come in and I say to them, they're all sitting down quite quietly and peacefully. I say, guys, I need your help. I need some street credit with my kids. And the only way I'm going to do it, I told them that I was going to have another 25 followers on Instagram by the end of tonight. So I need your help. And so I just play this out a little bit. And I just say, guys, this is where you get amazing insight into what the kids are doing in class. And so why not? And so we've made a huge push this year with the class Instagram account, making sure that transparency is huge. I've had parents follow me. I've had parents commenting on all the work the kids are doing. Of course, tons of likes from parents. Parents are big fans of liking work that kids are doing, especially their own. And that makes sense. I get it. And then the cool layer with that is that they have this knowledge and they see you and they say, oh, I've been following you on Instagram. I had parents come up to me and say, I've been seeing everything you do and it's so cool. And then I've even had parents who don't have kids in my class. And I guess they've been referred somehow and word got out that there's some cool stuff going on. And so they're like, oh, Mr. O'Grady, I spotted you on Instagram. I really like what's going on. It seems cool. I hope my son takes art next year. So there's been some cool occurrences like that. And I think it's that layer of comfort that parents will get. And then also making sure that you have some sort of support from administration. That goes without saying. And keeping that sort of transparency at that top level is huge. But yeah, I think once they see what's going on and know that things are going in the right direction, and why it's happening, then your connectedness with them is so much more easy. So
involved, and maybe even your admin could be to engage students in creating some kind of presentation, and that could be whatever formats that they are most drawn to, but then inviting parents to school to hear their own children talk about what they've been working on and why it's important to them, and giving students a chance then to empathize with their parents and understand what their concerns and questions might be, but then also giving them a chance to share their own voice and communicate why they think it's important to be doing this work and to be online, and how they're becoming good digital citizens through this learning experience. And then I think paired with that, providing, on-demand resources, right? Where parents can figure out what does it mean to be a digital citizen, and, how do I keep up to date with all these changing tools, and having that available, because there's a lot to keep up with. And so providing, I think, the two of those together can give you a strong kind of entryway into connected classrooms.
Once you understand the value of being connected, it's hard to not want everyone to share in that. And so, I started to share these ideas with teachers I worked with, and that became then the principal of the school wanted to know what was going on, and then the administrators want to know what's going on, and ultimately the parents as well. And I found my parents incredibly supportive of the things we were doing, and as a parent myself later on, as my kids went through school, I loved seeing them do this sort of stuff. I don't understand why anyone would not want students to be engaged in this world. This is the world they live in. And, obviously we need to be careful. There are risks and responsibilities in everything we do in life, and managed well, they aren't serious risks. And the benefits that come from playing in this space, from being part of this world, which really is the world that these kids live in, I think it would probably be irresponsible of us to not want kids to learn to play in this space well.
And luckily, over the last 11 years of blogging with my classes, I have had very little resistance from parents. I've never actually had a parent outright say they're not blogging, that's the end of it, period. I've been very lucky that way. But also, I front load before I introduce the blog. I give parents a lot of information because they need that. They often don't know what classroom blogging is all about. They may have heard the word blog, but they don't understand the purpose of it. There really have been only 2 times in my memory where a parent didn't want to sign the blog contract. And so it just takes a phone call to find out, what's the holdup? Why are they maybe a little hesitant to allow their child, especially with an 8-year-old? They don't want their children on the internet, different things like that. They're worried that someone is going to find out their address and their phone number, the personal information. So we talk about digital citizenship, actually, and how powerful classroom blogging really can be. And honestly, just that conversation, they're so much more understanding and aware, and then they sign it. So in 11 years, it's been pretty straightforward, pretty easy. But you might run into a parent who does give you a bit of a hard time about it, and it's just a conversation. And if that parent ends up saying still no, well, then you have to respect that decision. And then unfortunately that child, won't be part of the blogging process, or maybe won't be part of the full experience. Maybe they can do bits and pieces of it, but maybe the parent doesn't want their child's face on the blog, because I do a lot of blogging with pictures or videos, and that's fine too.
It's about keeping them informed so that they know what's coming up, and selling the high points of this. The ability with the projects that I work in to turn around and go, well, actually look at these connections the kids are making between these different schools. They're working asynchronously, they're all contributing to a project. The value they can see in that, and then equating that through to where does this fit in the real world when you're actually out from school, when you're out in the wild and you're out there doing stuff. The example I often use is the first book I ever wrote. I wrote with a good friend of mine, Harry Dickinson. And Harry was based in Alabama. I met him 6 months after we had written the book. That was the first time I ever met him. But we have worked collaboratively all the way through developing a book. That's the sort of thing that we now do in our world. We're not limited by, I've got to go into a meeting room to talk to someone. My meeting room is my computer. It's my web camera, my microphone, and the ability to talk and meet with anyone, anywhere. It's not an unusual thing as an IB examiner for us to be having meetings where we've got 20 different time zones sort of dotted into a meeting. And there are people going, it's 3 o'clock in the morning here. Another one's going, no, I'm feeling bright and bushy-tailed because it's 8 o'clock. That's the world they're in. And most of the parents understand this, that this is actually what our kids are going to be going into. This is the world for them, where they're going to have to work strange hours, using technology, collaborating across the planet. How do you get the administrators on board? The same thing. But I also find that making mention in your school newsletter about how wonderful it is collaborating with somebody in a different school in a different continent also tends to tick the boxes. Most administrators like that.
Getting parents on board with having a connected classroom, I think the very first thing is just to make it clear what you're doing with your students and why. Parents might be afraid to have their kids out there and connected, but once you really start explaining, this is what we're going to do and this is why I'm doing it and this is how your student is going to stay safe in my classroom with it, I think it really does help get them on board with the learning, because it's something that it helps just kind of explain what you're doing and why. The other thing is just like sharing your learning. Parents want to see what their kids are doing usually. So if you're explaining, well, this is why I'm doing it, this is how we're doing it, and hey, by the way, come join us, come see what we're doing, participate in our blog, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. It really does help, get them on board, because it's like, okay, not only am I explaining it, but they can actually see this is what your kid's doing, and they can see those connections that the students are making. So those are kind of how I would say you could get parents on board with having a connected classroom.
I think my best piece of advice for getting parents on board is to use the kids. Utilize the kids, utilize their excitement. Often if they're showing things that they've created or things that, or they can go home and talk about, or at student-led conferences, talk about some of the connections that that you've made, then the parents get excited as well. Right now we're doing lots of mystery Skypes. So, the kids are really excited about doing mystery Skypes. It also ties into the unit. So there's a big educational value to it. And I think the parents, once they hear it from the kids, it's a lot more powerful than, you telling them. Obviously you'll need to, inform them, what you're going to do and what you're going to do with the information, or the kid's face is going to be published and things like that. But I think once the parents understand the learning behind it and they have the kids' excitement as well, the parents quickly get on board and they have a lot of fun with it as well, talking about their children with it.
My best piece of advice for getting parents, admin, other teachers, anybody on board is to invite said person to a connected activity you have. So for example, I'll go back to the authors again. Whenever I invite my administrator, when I invite parents to come and see the power of that, I have everybody on my side. I've never had anyone not on my side afterwards, because they see how amazing it is that your kids or your students at the school get to connect.
Every year, I'd explain to my parents what we were going to do, and I'd have them sign a release for all that. And so I'd always have at least one or two parents that didn't want to sign that. As soon as I'd get them in and I'd show them what we were doing and we talk about it, they'd, oh, you're doing that. And my kids learned how to be safe online, because that's scaring me at home. I don't know what to do about that. And you're teaching them that. Holy cow! Yes, let's do that. And they'd sign off. I never, in 7 years, I never had a parent not eventually sign.
Parents are a big part of getting children wanting to be part of what's going on in class. I've had parents before who say to me, they don't want their child online. They don't want their child to have anything to do with what's going on. We do one Skype call that the child has to sit out and watch, and the next day the child comes in with permission to be on everything. So one of the best ways to get parents involved is to get the children involved, and they start bugging their parents. But I've done things where I've had mystery Skype calls where I had parents come in and just sit in the back and watch what's going on. I've done things where I've had parents come into the classroom and sit with every child at a computer and have that child go through the computer and show them everything they're doing, their blogs and the docs that they're working on with their friends and the projects they're working on. To show the parents all of the work, because I think the two big concerns parents have, one is that it's fluff, that they're not actually learning. So show them that the learning is going on. And the other is safety. So if the children can talk to the parents about how we stay safe online and how we're only working with teachers that I know, we're only working with classrooms that I know about. And I know that these are real live educators, safe educators, then they feel much more comfortable. And I actually have a classroom that all the parents ask for their children to be in my classroom. And it's very different from other classrooms.
If you like this format, hearing from lots of different perspectives on a single topic, then please click on that like button below. Subscribe to our channel to get all of the videos in this series. Turn on the notifications to find out when we're live on YouTube and be the first to see the next installment in the Let's Get Connected series. Do you have any questions about having a connected classroom or being a connected teacher? Or would you like to see a specific series related to anything about education and technology? Leave us a comment below and let us know. If you'd like to see even more resources to help you in the classroom after you've watched this series, then head on over to our website and check out all of our free resources. We have more videos, blog posts, some online courses all about teaching and learning and coaching in the digital world.